Hi there. Let's continue. If you couldn't hear it because my computer is weeding out noise, a doorbell rang and it was a delivery I was expecting, not until an hour, but it came now anyway. So it doesn't matter. It was good. Who does the bell rings for, right? It was good. It was a good interruption because I'm not going to go into the whole Christianity because that would be some of the things I would talk about in another session. But here we are going to end up this whole take on Christianity and take on Buddhism and take on, there are certain traits when we talk about translation that are similar because we are trying 2,500 years later to translate something within languages that we have completely forgotten. So it goes without saying, but I'm also saying there are just the implications that goes with me and the way I'm writing things. I'm saying one thing in my teaching material and when I write it down, and that will remain for prosperity, right, in my books. But in my classes, which will disappear and not be there because when I get old of age, I will delete everything on the internet and there will be nothing left of what I said other than what people have downloaded, which I prefer they don't, because the point is I'm leaving this reality. So please don't keep my recordings. Let me go when I'm dead. Let me go. And that also includes my books and my teachings. Burn my books and delete my teachings because I'm gone. I'm not supposed to be here. They are not supposed to be used 2,000 years in the future where some alien race suddenly falls upon them and then think, oh, that's how the culture was in this reality field, because it's not. It's not accurately showing the general population. So that's also to take into consideration. So we can't define our race by it and say it goes for all. And then it goes with how the different authors have used the language, as I was talking about the St. Paul's. He combined Greek words that are not combined anywhere else. And how do you translate that? What's the meaning? What's the meaning of that word? Was it to bridge between Greek philosophy and Jewish religion? And he created the word for it. And what does that actually mean? Because what was behind the thought form of the Jewish religions and what was behind the philosophy behind the Greek philosophy he was trying to put together, creating a new word, and so forth. As I am working with it as well, when we talk words, I say density. In science, it means one thing. It means something is very heavy, right? The more dense it is, the more heavy it is. But I use densities in a complete opposite direction. So that again goes in, it does go with the different forms of densities, but since we're expanding the notion of density, we are here talking about different degrees of density. And then we say, well, if you have density 5, then that should be the heaviest. No, that's density 1. And that's, again, upside down. That makes it difficult to just read it and study it. And that's why studying text and studying material on the internet and studying anything that other people have made is good when you're inside the base program to get ignited and to get you pushed into beginning the process. But the further you go in, the more you must rely on your own abilities. As I talked about the hungry man, that if he's hungry, yes, you can give him 5 fish and he will be satisfied, but he will be hungry tomorrow. So why not teach him how to fish? Why not teach him how to make his own tools so that he can sustain himself? And that is how we are to work with all of these teachings. And that's what my goal is. You are to become better at me in whatever is your skills and whatever is your talents and whatever is your capacities and whatever you're supposed to do. And you're not supposed to cling on to me or see me as your teacher or your anything. That's why I'm kind of, I'm just teaching it. But I'm not taking on the responsibilities being your teacher because I'm not in the 4th cycle. I'm in the 5th. I'm specializing. I am sharing things while I am eradicating my own reality and whatever. And what I derive that is necessary for people that are still within the cycles, I'm sharing because that's an obligation we have. But everything else that is not suitable for your beautiful ears because that's mine to deal with and my reality, I am evaporating. I'm not sharing. So that means that you are getting 10% of the teachings, but you're not getting the other 90%. And you are to learn to perceive reality that way. Whatever you study, whatever you read are only 10% of an enormous large pattern. When you work with childhood trauma, it's only 10% of an enormous large pattern. When you work with whatever you're working with, it is only 10%. What is inside this reality is only 10% of everything else there is. if that even cuts it. So that is part of that journey where you begin, where you really understand that this is a journey for life. This is a lifestyle. And all depending on if you're saying, well, I'm doing step 1, 2, or 3, I'm working with these perception levels as well in the advanced clearing work. And of course, it goes into alien programs, and which I am talking about in the whole advanced clearing work. But here, when we talk on YouTube and philosophy, we can say the 3 steps, because that's inside-based program, doing the transition out of base program, and then doing the transition out of the transition in the middle path and getting into the narrow path where you will really begin to work with your own capacities and your own abilities. So we are having the broad path, that is for commoners and all the ones that are still within the reincarnational cycles. And then we are having the middle path that are for the ones that are getting ready to go out of the cycles and to understand that they now need to shift their ways out of the regression spiral, get back on the progression spiral. That's the middle way. And then getting into the narrow path where we are working with our own capacities in the context of what we have learned and what we're capable of doing. So on the broad path, we're becoming the best version of a human we can be, because that's mastery of reality. That you literally, in all, you know it, it's been there for so long. It's part of all wisdom texts. So don't come and tell me you don't know it. You can be reminded of it. And that's what I will do in the whole living YouTube videos, but I'll not go further into it, because literally, it's out there. And the whole, you know it when you're doing, but you're just, some of you that are still doing it, even though you know what you're doing is wrong, you're just justifying it. You're just coming up with excuses and explanation why it's okay. And if you come to me and you present some of these ideas of why it's okay, I will simply just cut them to the ground and say, do you want to do this or do you not want to do this? Because if you want to do this and you know it's wrong, you stop doing it and stop fussing about it. Because if you're still fussing about it and you don't know how to do it, then you're still too weak to go beyond the base program. Then take a couple of rounds more and get some strength, get some balls, so you can do what you need to do. So when you are encountering something in your life, you know it's wrong, you stop doing it. You might have this, as my father used to say, and I think it's a good way to say things. You can mess up one time, that's okay, and you can be forgiven for it because it was the first time. If you repeat it, then those who are around you, and that means me, I will begin to say, well, I'll cut you some slack on that one, but don't do it again. And if people do it the 3rd time, then I just say, yeah, you're not ready. Go out, mess around, do what you need to do, fornicate, do your partnerships, do whatever you need to do, then come back when you're ready, because you're not ready yet. This is too difficult for you. You're fighting too many demons, to put it that way. You are still too embedded into the physical form. You're still not in control of your physical form. You are not doing what you set yourself out to do. You are not capable of mastery of your own physical form yet. It is still running you on all of its levels of existence. And I talk about this in the advanced clearing work as well, and in the basic energy work, where I literally go in and say, well, some of these electrochemical processes are tied to patterns, and these patterns are tied to different energetic entities. So they're still running the ball, and you're not strong enough to fight these off. So that means you are in the forces of your body, and you need to be strong to go against this. And that's why I'm saying you have to, and I'm saying here have to, correct way of living with your body, right? But the correct way to do this is to be physically active, to have a healthy body, to exercise, to eat correctly, to sleep as much as you can when you need it. And it's a difference from each and one of us, to not poison your body with all sorts of stuff. All of the things that goes with the Eightfold Path. It's straightforward. It's not complicated. But if you are tied down by the forces that runs your body and sustains themselves from you and your energy patterns and all sorts of psychological processes and electrochemical processes and energetic processes, then you are not strong enough to fight that one off. And if that's the case, then you are definitely not strong enough for the middle path, where you're beginning to deal with entities in their own environment. How are you going to go in if you're weak in this world that is yours? How are you going to be in a world that's theirs? Do you think you will have the strength to do it there? Absolutely not. So go back, learn to crawl before you want to run, right? Crawl, walk, run. So that's the step again you have to take. So this is again when we talk about the different levels of, when I talk the basic concepts, and some of you are doing it again and again until you really get it and nail it and get your life in order via the whole Project Blue Flower. You eat correctly, you sleep correctly, you exercise correctly. That means for what your body needs. You're healthy, you don't have overweight, that's energetic parasites. You are capable of doing energy work, you're maintaining yourself, you have a life in a specific rhythm, which I will talk more about in details, which is also part of my classes, by the way. And you have the understanding what you can expect from your partnership as long as you're doing this, but you're also understanding at some point this might dissolve if you choose to go further, but right now you're there, you're taking one step at a time and understanding the dynamics that are there, including that if you are ready for going on the middle path and out of the base program and out of normal reality, there will be certain crashes in your life that shows you the sign that now you're ready to move into the inner realities. And then you will begin to cut loose what's part of your outer reality. And if you fight that, and if you kind of say, no, I can't let go of my partner, we've been married for 10 years or what have you, then I said, good, go back, be with your partner, live that one out until it's done. But you're not ready to go in and work with energy yet. Because life has shown you, your partner has shown you, that he or she is not ready to go with you until the middle path. And you can't expect them to have you around when you begin to deal with entities, because their life, as I came up with a little bit of a fun analogy, living with you, when you truly go into the highest level of reality, will be like living on Skinwalker Ranch. And you can't expect that of people that are not doing this work. Seriously. I mean that life will be something completely else for people that are in your field. Normal people that are sensitive, if they are doing, was out walking with my neighbor years ago. But anyways, and she saw things through my field. She saw, because she was in my field, we were talking, and she saw things through my eyes. And she said, whoa, that is definitely a different level of reality that you're experiencing. And she freaked out. So this is how you lose friends, right? Not 10 ways to lose a guy, but 10 ways to lose a friend. Go to the middle path and begin to work in the other dimension of reality. And that's not spirituality. And we are here to join together in all blessing and loving and caring and all of these, bless you, things that are going on in the spiritual community. These are just still in the base program. So, and that's just another level of emotionality and psychology that is put into a new type of worshipping, right? So they have not gone to that path yet. They are beginning to see glimpses of, and they get the invite all the time, but they're interpreting it in a different way. They're interpreting, oh, this is a sign from the universe for me to do this and that, whatever. No, this is a sign from the path that's calling you that you need to get your ducks in a row and begin to do the work you're supposed to do. But again, this is my take on it. And you can say, well, Randy, I don't agree. And fair, you don't agree. We are all trying to figure this one out. I have just chosen to become one of the ones that are talking from the older levels of how this is supposed to be done. And I'm seeing there's a lot of beautiful young people out there that are trying to combine things and be inclusive and are trying to take the best of all of the different teaching systems and combine it together and figure out ways how they can be humans inside this reality and both be in base program, but at the same time also do the expansive way of consciousness. And I am pretty sure that is definitely also fulfilling some kind of purpose, but that's not where I'm talking from. I'm talking from the ones that want to do the return path. So these are also the distinctions that we have to do when we're doing this. We're not saying, well, Randy, you're wrong and I'm right, or they're wrong and I'm right. That is at some point we do need to, again, I want to go back to that one. I want to finish this line of thought and then we'll go back to some of the segregation dynamics. But here, when we are in that inclusiveness and we are beginning to understand that we are a joint race that needs to wake up on many different levels, we are not to fight each other, but in many ways and forms learn to work together, but work together from where we are. And that means that some of us have specialities that are aimed for the 5th cycle entirely, and others have for the 4th cycle entirely. And those of us who are in between, we need to sit on both chairs. As you are at period of time when you are between the base program and the broad path and the middle path, you are sitting on both chairs. But if you really want to go into the middle path, you have to kick off the chair in the base program and say, I've completed that one. I'm no longer sitting on that one. There's no more for me to learn there. And then you go into the high grounds or the narrow path. And then that will be the 2 chairs you're sitting on when you're doing the transition. And that's the same for us that are in the transition between the 4th and the 5th cycle, which is our world is in. That for this work I'm doing now is me cutting off. Years ago, I cut off the chair to the base program or the broad path. And now I'm cutting it off to the middle path. So that's where this line of work comes in. I am literally kicking off the chair in the middle path in the 4th cycle. And with that, the way I'm doing that, that's the giving over. I am giving you portions of my transition so you have that to work with. That's how we cut loose. We give over so that others can follow in our footsteps, so they will know that's the next level of the path. As I said, we're building the new universes, right? We're building the next set of cycles. And with that one, I want to go into the 7 factors of awakening. So that is when we talk about, just again, we're doing the Wikipedia thing, when we talk mindfulness here, translated to maintain awareness of reality, in particular the teachings. I think I've given quite a good example of why here, what that could entail and what that could be extrapolated. That was the word that came as from the teachings. Investigation of the nature of reality, which in many ways you're seeing me doing. I'm finding the sciences, I'm explaining it, I'm putting it into the boxes, I'm figuring out where is this and that pattern, where do they fit in. And once I'm done, I'm extinguishing these patterns of knowledge I have developed, which is contrary to what people do inside the base program or the broad path. When you become skilled in something, you become proficient and you build businesses and you sell it and you go out, you become famous, right? But here it's the opposite. We are understanding things so we can dissolve it and let it go and no longer give attention and energy to it, because we are going the return path. We are deconstructing everything that is connected to the physical reality. We are turning energetic. And at the same time, also being the best version of a human we can be inside the physical reality. With everything we have learned, if we are not putting it into practice, we don't have to go out and be teachers and create ashrams and everything. But all depending on who and what you are, there are many different ways of assisting this world, which is some of the future challenges I think we have, those of us who are on the return path. How are we going to live in a world that we're technically deconstructing? So these are also some of the challenges. But right now, I just want to do the giving over and building the bridge between what we call the 4th cycle and the 5th cycle, because technically I have done it from the broad path and into the middle path. But I will still on the High Awareness YouTube channel go into some of these things, because some of the psychological work that I would love to get into and begin, that connects to the 2-8 pillar, still ties into the base program, but it will be on a new level. It will no longer be the 3-9, which is all about the nature of reality. So that kind of is done for me. So that's again where in many ways it's interesting, because I start on the highest and then I'm just like following the new grand cycle technologies, just chewing away and chewing away and chewing away. And then I'll end in the physical form. And that means that at the end of my time, I will create the last knot into the physicality of my birth. And technically what we should do in time of death, when we're dying, we should connect to the time of our birth and there unravel all of the, as I talked about, all of the things that came in line when we came to be, and dissolve that. That's technically what we should do while we're dying, which has been seen as the tunnel of light as the neurons begins to shut down. So that's just the physical level. But then when we get out there, then we should, whatever we haven't cleared yet, would then be what we should look at, and then clear all of that, and then literally begin to dissolve the scanners, the biofield, the emotional field, the mental field, the advanced level that goes with the energy system, dissolving that piece by piece, and dissolve and dissolve and dissolve until whatever we want to transfer is being pulled out through the gate system. And then everything is extinguished here and we're done. It's just never return to this reality, because there's nothing that draws us back to the laws of energetic and genetic affinity. So in that also kind of understanding that the energy that also goes with also determination and effort that goes with the correct work of energy. And sometimes when we are trying to go between something we used to be and something we want to become, sometimes we become a little bit too harsh in our attempt to do so. Instead of doing the later, more mature giving over once we have done this a couple of times, we have a tendency, and that goes for all people, that kind of goes with anger. We need to cut loose. We need to just end it. Please just end it. And then sometimes we do some kind of little bit of disruption that is premature to the process where it was supposed to go. But that's kind of the law of segregation. If the entanglement becomes more than we technically can carry, then we must segregate for a period of time. But we're not done by the segregation. On the contrary, we have just cut loose a pattern for the time being, and then we must return to it due to the laws of energetic and genetic affinity. And these are some of the things that humanity is struggling with now. They have cut loose too many times, and now it's a completion cycle. And instead of dealing with it while they were in the timeline and at that point in time, they are now having to deal with it being on different timelines and not at that point in time, and that makes it so much more difficult. So sometimes cutting loose is the right thing to do, but turning the other cheek. But most of the time, it is actually better to be in it. But if you get so entangled that you can see you will drown in it, then you have to cut loose. These are, again, the subtleties in the work with energy, which is some of the things I would like to discuss in different contexts. I will come up with on the Higher Awareness Lifestyle channel, which I will activate shortly, because it leads to the work I want to do on the randygreen.one website, which I will transform to follow the teachings of the 2-8 pillars, so that we kind of have the 3, 9, 4, 10, 5, 11, 6, 12 highest levels of information in the whole Academy website, and then we'll do the 2, 8, and 1, 7 pillar in the randygreen.one website, where we will do more what we call past life work and advanced psychology and all of these kind of things. So that's why I'm doing it on YouTube to begin with, because I'm building a bridge there, and at the same time doing a transition and a giving over that is suitable for that medium that YouTube is on that level. And then I will only have one channel left, and that will be the whole project, where we will go into the future together. So you will see the whole Academy channel, which you have here listened to, that with this one, with the Take of Buddhism, as far as I'm concerned, as things are now, that is concluded. And if there's something, of course, later on that needs to be revisited, I will do so. But for now, the work there is done. Then we move to the Higher Awareness Lifestyle, where I'll complete that energy and the purpose of that one, complete that one full cycle, and then move into what we could say is the whole project and whatever I want to put there of things on YouTube. And then that is done. And then I'll just completely have what I'm working with within my websites. And then there is, of course, the whole perspective channel, where I would love to go in and discuss sciences. I see that as later in life, where I will, with all of the other work done, I'll begin to look into sciences and say, okay, where does science need to go? As that is probably where I would put some of the races that are going to be here in the future. And I hereby talking about human races that are not humans as we understand them, but they are humans compared to that they live on our planet. And what they would need, I could put that one into the whole perspectives, and then would just be an open discussion and not a teaching system, which is a huge difference. So on the 7 factors of awakening, we have mindfulness, investigation, energy, joy, or rapture. I think I've touched ground with that. Once you get that kind of feeling that you understand the pattern unravels, that feels like a rapture. It does give off joy. It gives this, when we talk about the thunderbolt, the other tool there is the bell, and that kind of gives that ring, because it does. It's not the Tibetan bell, but it does give a ring. It literally does. It gives this ring sound. It's amazing. It's like when the sun rays hits the creek, that kind of sound of the creek, and the sun, as the sun hits the little small waves in the creek as the water flows, that energy that comes from there, that's that kind of sound. I know how it's, you can say, how can light and water, yes, water create a sound, but that's the water sound. How can that create a bell sound? Well, that's higher sensing, people. Relaxation or tranquility, and that is of both body and mind. And you will come to that. You will learn to accept things as they are, see things as they are, deal with things as they are, know these are processes, know this is just a phase, and you will reach calm, including when you do a meditation. You will know how to shift between the different energy systems. You will know how to not be stressed using your sympathetic energy system and be in alpha, and you will learn to go into theta and shift into your para, and you will learn how to sleep and how to relax and why you can't sleep, and all of these things. You will get in control of who and what you are, and that will create relaxation because you are mastering things. You're not anxiety, if we could put it that way, in anxiety being feeling not good enough and not all these kind of things that are going on within, stress talking about it, right? So we just breathe, relax. It's just a process. Okay. And it's interesting. Why do I tap into that? Because there's a picture on this page, and that monk that is sitting there, he is not giving off a good energy. It's interesting enough. Okay. Concentration. A calm, one-pointed state of mind or clear awareness. I think I have shown that as well in this little series. Equanimity, which is a word I'm not pronouncing correctly, to accept reality as it is without craving or aversion. And I've touched ground with that as well, kind of when I was talking about pooping, right? I could see when I was talking about it, I could see, yeah, I still got a little piece of work to do there. Yeah, I still have I have aversion to this body. I should definitely look into the aversion of this body and learn to be in I am from time to time, most of the time, in what we could call caring observation of its functionality and taking good care of it, because it's my body, right? And it's the vessel I am currently inhabiting. So I'm taking really good care of it. But at the same time, I also have aversion towards it. So definitely there's a little piece of meditation work to be done. Why do I have that aversion? Is it energetic parasites? Is it the coding? Anyways, so that's, or is it because I'm pissed about being put into a form and therefore I have aversion towards in all these processes? I think it's more like that. So that would be a little bit to contemplate and meditate upon. So I will find the pattern and the answer, and by that unravel that one, extinguish it by evaporating the energies of it, and thereby it will no longer affect my conscious and subconscious processes, which is part of reaching the relaxation and the tranquility. Because once you get to that point, you don't have all of these things that are going on in your body. It calms down. And that is also to see things as they truly are, or as it is. It has many, many layers to this one that goes all depending on where you are and what level of reality you're looking at. But the accept reality as it is also goes with accepting things that are out there, as we talked about that little Dalai Lama exercise with inhaling and exhaling into compassion, is also a way to do inhaling the suffering and exhaling it as compassion, is also a way to, as you've done that a couple of times and you learn to cope with the enormous amount of pain there is in this world, you just come to that realization that why it is that way. And the moment you have worked with it and you transform the energies and you have really done the best you can, you've seen how complex it is and how many layers there are of reality, how many layers of suffering there is, and all the history of the suffering in the background, everything I've been working with, you just come to that point where you just understand the dynamics of it and why constantly people choose to be in that weird complex pattern of reality as it is. Then you are just saying, it is as it is, and it is that way because people choose to be that way, and people can do what they can do because they are who they are, and they have the capacities they have, and they have lessons to learn, and all of these things. And you can still go in and have aversion against it. You can still go in and crave to solve it, because that's a craving as well. I want to fix this. That's a craving. So that's also the balance point where you go in, no aversion and no craving. You don't want to fix it and you don't want to reject it or go against it or feel negative about it. So you could just go in and say, here's what it is. This is the world. This is me. This is what is. Okay, what do I need to do with what I am then energetically level and no longer give away your energy to things that you have no power of? I think that's also a point of accepting reality as it is, that you stop trying to fix things that are not yours to fix. Each and one of us must take responsibility for our own self and energy system, everything we are. It can never be someone else's responsibility. It can never be yours. People must choose to do this on their own, and that's also hard to accept. But once you understand the complexity of energy work, you will completely understand why they have to choose to do that and why it can never be taught or imposed onto them. So that's also part of the higher level of understanding. So this evaluation of 7 awakening factors is one of the 7 seeds of awakening related states, just to put it in that way. So anyway, so I will not go further into that. So to wrap all of this up, which had touched ground with many different levels of whether it was sciences or it was the other religions or the concept of religion or what the path means and what we're working with and in different ways and forms and what have you and what not, then just to put it all into this sum up sequence of, I think I've touched ground with it, but just to make it perfectly clear. For those of you who might still be within what we call the broader path and you would be curious and you would love to ask me questions regarding this or that, or what do you mean by this, or go into a process. This is where it becomes a little bit annoying, because the moment I'm really capable of understanding things, that's when I'm done with it. And you are getting this where you are to begin your path and you will love to get the answers from me. But by you wanting to get the answers from me, you will push me back into a line of work I have completed. I have given it over to you so you can continue with what I have shared with you, what I have experienced. From that, you can find ideas, you can find tools, you can find things you resonate with. I've given you different levels of energies. I've given you from the lowest to the highest. This is what you could achieve with it. This is what, in my opinion, you should achieve with it. And it is not for you to begin a whole process with me because you know I'm the go-to person, so therefore you would love to go to me and get the answers. But this is where I would push you back and say, no, I'm done with that one. I'm moving on. I got other stuff to deal with. You are to deal with this in your contemplation. You are to ask the open questions in contemplation, as I explain on this channel as well. You are to do the studies I have offered in the classes of the whole academy and later on the randygreen.one YouTube channel or a website, as well as on the whole living channel, where we'll go into some of the more details. And once I'm done with that, then I'll take it as if you have done these videos and you have done all of them and you have understood it. And therefore, when we do begin to work with the root races and the lineages and the clearing of the genetic composition that goes with the transformative energy system on the middle path, there will be no of these typical broad path questions, because you already integrated and understood it, because I've created it here. That's why I created it. That was the purpose. The purpose is not for me to go back in and work with you on that level. The purpose of me to say, this is what you should accomplish. Here are the words, here are the teachings, because I'm done there. I can't go back. It's not for me anymore. It's energetically incorrect for me to go back. My energy system is too strong. My energy is too strong for the base program. But I can work on that level, and here you have got what you need while you're still there in the appropriate type of energy. But I have moved on. And that is part of the return path. And that is enormously frustrating, because you would love to have me around to answer these questions, but I am moving on. And on that level, I am not, there will only be a few things, but I will typically refer to, that's the video, that's the teachings, that's the question you should ask. I'm pushing you into a process where you will solve it yourself. I'm not going to give you the fish. You're hungry. I'm not going to give you the fish. I'm giving you tools, and I'm giving you the techniques to fish. The rest is up for you to learn. By your practice, by your own studies, by your own contemplation, by your own energy work, and by your own meditation work. And by your daily exercise, and by the correct food, and the correct approach to partnerships, and the correct approach to reality as it offers itself, and the struggles you have there. There is one of the things I do want to work with on the randygreen.one, once I'm done with these teachings, I want to create that fits the clearing work of the 2-8 pillar, the activation and clearing work of the 2-8 pillar, which you know from the whole philosophy book, as well as the New Grand Cycle Transition course 1 and 2, where I explain these things, as well as in the other courses I've made afterwards. The idea is there that the work we should embark on, those of us who are ready, and I know many of you are probably not ready yet, you're still on the other levels, but you will get there at some point. Then I have made that work that will go in and work with past lives. That's why I've done it here as well. because that ties into our psychological structure that will lift us out of the last pieces of the emotional field. Some of that also ties into what we call more embedded psychological structures you have within the broad path that are part of your human life. These we can touch because they're tied into a spectrum that goes in current life, past lives, and future lives. These are the psychological issues I want to work with. But whether or not your mommy potty trained you in the right way, in the wrong way, or these kind of things, these will just be droppings. I'll just throw in, because I'm clairvoyant as well, just throw in and say, well, that's that one. But that pattern is an exemplification, a symbolic representation of some other things that are tied to your past life, or tied to where you're supposed to go with this energy configuration that you have. And that ties into some of the programs and the holographic overlay that are inserted into your original transformative energy system. That is where my craving lies now. That's where I need to activate, work with, clean up, understand, and integrate, and then discard and move on. And then once that is done, the next 9 years, and that work, that's technically more because we have 3 years now, and then we have a whole 9-year cycle. So that's 12 years. And once that is done, then there will be the remnants of the 1-7 cycle, the 1-7 pillar cycle that needs to be activated and cleaned up. And then I'm done. Completely done. That's when I retire, and that's where I will begin to ponder upon what I will leave on the internet and what I will dissolve, because then it's almost 20 years old, right? So it's not suitable anymore. So everything is time dependent in the completion cycle. So with that last piece of information, you kind of understand this is not because I want to open up. Now we're going to have a lot of discussions, and now we're going to tap into all sorts of teachings and ask me all sorts of questions and be the go-to person. No, this is a giving over. Now I've done my piece of work with that one. You got my understandings. You got some ideas. Now you do your piece of work. Now you go in and investigate what you need to investigate if you have affiliation with Buddhism. If you have affiliation with other teaching systems, the mythology is the same, which I've been trying to show here. So that's the inclusivity. Instead of being focused on the different branches of the illusions, let's go and see what is the commonalities, what are the similarities, what's the techniques, what is the technology, what's the purpose, what's the dynamics, what's the mechanics. Go in and find the common denominator in everything that we are investigating, so we don't get segregated within all of the illusions and get drawn into rabbit holes where we lose ourselves. Each of these paths are being given to specific lineages. So that's also important to understand, that if you are part of the Western world, Buddhism is probably not the path you should take. You should probably work on something else, but you are right now on the Buddhist path because you are tied to it because of past lives. And that is for you to activate and work with, as I have done. That's why I also put it in here. So those of you who have that affiliation and it came natural to you, well, is it because you're supposed to be submerged to it in this life as well? No, because then you had been born in Tibet or in India, but you're born in the West. So this is the process of activation and cleanup, and then you move on and figure out what it is that is your next step. Just for those of you who have the tendency to keep stuck in different teaching systems for a very long time, thinking that that's the answer. But you are born in the wrong place in the wrong time. And there's a reason for that. So that's also when we talk about all the ancient teaching systems. It's the completion cycle, people. We are moving on. We are discarding what is no longer of use, and what was in use 2,500 years ago is definitely not of use today, because our culture is different. The time is different. The humans are different. The challenges we have are different. There are things we can derive from it that is general for the human population, being the best version of a human you can be. But when we talk about the work on the inner levels of reality, it is so different today. And that's part of the awakening process that we need to embark on now. So that means we have to do the transition, all of us that have the potentials to do so, whether it's the transition for the future on this planet, or the transition to the return path, or the transition to whatever there are other dimensional realities, or whatever we are embarking on. We are all in the awakening, those who have potentials for it, and we are all in transition, those who have the potential for it. This is not the time to rise our tent and make it stationary and say that's where we will rest our head. We will always, as it said in the Gospels, for those of us who are on this path, we have no place to rest our head. We will always be on the move. And that is what the fifth cycle is all about. So with that one said, continue these processes in the Higher Awareness Lifestyle YouTube channel. See you all there to continue the joint work that we are going to do as I'm doing my giving over and shifting chairs and leaving behind what is worth to leave behind and move on to the next step of my own processes and my own clearing work and activation work. Thank you.